Hello friends. Welcome to the Fiction Quest. How are you all? So in this video, we will see what if Naruto falls in the forest of death and becomes a whole new kind of ninja. But before we start, if you want more amazing stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, if possible, share this video. Naruto fell through the trees. That snake freak Orochimaru had slammed him with some kind of weird jutsu that cut him off from the fox's chakra. And with that, his healing ability was gone. He had seen Sakura abandon him to try and help Sasuke fight off the snake Sannin. He wasn't like he was surprised that they had just let him drop. They never gave a damn about him. With a groan, he hit the ground. Sighing, he looked up at what he could see, what little sunlight that was coming through the tree tops. Guess I won't be becoming Hokage after all, Naruto muttered. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if they just string me up in the square so everyone can see my core. Hearing a rustling over to his side, Naruto glanced over to see the three ninja from sound. He just sighed and went back to looking up. It wasn't like they were going to help him. Kin stopped when she saw the look in the Leaf Ninja's eye. It was almost the same look that she had had in her own eyes on more than one occasion, a look of sorrow, abandonment, and a look that showed he was ready for death. Kin, let's keep moving. We've got to find Sasuke Uchiha before nightfall, Zaku said. Dosu, Kin said, ignoring her spiky-haired, sociopathic teammate. His eyes, they're the same kinds of eyes as ours were. Yeah, I saw them, Dosu said. Ever since the two of them had met, they'd formed a kinship, and Dosu had promised Kin that he would be her big brother and watch out for her. We need to get him somewhere safe, somewhere where he can get help. What? Zaku demanded. We've got a mission, and if you guys back off. To hell with Orochimaru, Kin shouted. This guy's been through hell just like the rest of us, and I'll be damned if I let someone go though that anymore. Then you're just gonna have to go, Zaku said, raising his hands. Before he could do anything though, Dosu jumped in front of him and swung his melody arm, rattling Zaku and giving Kin the chance to kick him out of the tree. I'll carry the kid. You break any genjutsu that gets in our way, Dosu said, carefully pulling Naruto onto his shoulders. Kin nodded and the two of them took off for the tower. If Naruto was floating, he had no idea where he was or what was going on. It's strange, floating along like this, said a voice to Naruto's left. Glancing over, he saw a man in a black suit under a red coat. He had long red hair that was tied in a braid, whisker marks like Naruto, and red slit eyes. But then again, this is the area between life and death. So we're not dead yet, huh? Naruto asked. You're the Kyuubi, I take it. Yes, he is, said another voice, although he didn't look like that when I sealed him inside you. Naruto turned and saw a man that looked like an older version of himself without the whisker marks and brown eyes standing beside a woman with blazing red hair, bright blue eyes, and whirlpool markings on her cheeks. Hello, Naruto, the woman said. You look so much like your father. Naruto's eyes widened. Mom, Dad? Naruto gasped. Hello, fourth. Kyuubi growled, staring at the blonde man. The fourth? Naruto's jaw nearly dropped. You mean to tell me that not only are you guys my parents, but I'm also the son of the legendary fourth Hokage? Interesting heritage you've got, kid. Kyuubi chuckled. Not much good though, considering we're about to die. Naruto muttered, glancing at his parents. That's why you're here, isn't it? To take me to the next life, and maybe him down to hell? No, son. The fourth said. Believe it or not, there are people on the other side who want you alive. He seemed to float forward and placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. You're going to be a great ninja someday, son. Naruto nodded and then slammed his fist into the fourth's stomach. That was for stuffing that damn fox into me, Naruto muttered. Minato looked at his son, who bore a smile on his face. Sorry, just had to get that out. Minato looked at his son before he smiled. We're very proud of you, son, Kushina said, walking forward and hugging Naruto before planting a kiss on his cheek. You're going to break through the heavens, I just know it. Thanks, Mom, Naruto said. Kushina looked up at the fox and narrowed her eyes. You'd better take good care of my son, or else I'm going to come back from the dead just to turn you into a scarf, she threatened. The fox actually gulped in fear of the woman. Naruto chuckled before he felt his body beginning to feel heavy. It's time for you to go back now, son, Minato said. Remember,
We'll always be watching over you and we love you. Naruto nodded and closed his eyes. When he opened them again he found himself in a room with a tube up his nose, an IV in his arm, and something attached to his chest.
"Oh, you're awake," said a sweet voice. Naruto looked over and saw a young woman with brown hair and Inuzuka marks on her cheeks. Naruto groaned and sat up but stopped when he found one of his arms chained to the bed. With a sad chuckle, Naruto pulled the tube out of his nose with his free hand. "I don't suppose you'd unchain me from here," Naruto said. The woman hugged her clipboard close to her chest and shook her head. "I wish I could, but people higher up than me ordered me to keep you chained," she said apologetically. Naruto just sighed. "Yeah, they're all afraid of the big bad fox," Naruto muttered before he yanked on the chains, breaking them almost effortlessly. "Careful, don't strain yourself," the nurse said quickly. "Your body is still recovering from the surgery." "Surgery?" Naruto asked, reaching to his chest. Narrowing his eyes, he pulled back the bandages to reveal a metallic disc implanted into his chest around his heart. "What the hell?"
"It's something special I've been working on just for you, Naruto," the nurse said. "It's called an internal repair and operating network, or iron for short. Essentially it acts the same as the demon fox's chakra and heals you on the inside. With the right equipment, it will also channel the fox's chakra and you'll be able to use it as a weapon."
"Need to get that damn seal off first if we want that to work," Naruto said, leaning back. "Seal?" the nurse asked. Naruto nodded and channeled some chakra into the seal, showing the foxes and the one that Orochimaru placed on it. "That freaky snake guy put it on me just before he threw me out of a tree," Naruto explained. "What did he look like?" the nurse asked. "Pale skin, long black hair, and a freaky-ass long tongue," Naruto explained. "Orochimaru," she gasped. "He's the one who left after Minato-sensei beat him out for the title of Hokage." "Minato?" Naruto asked. "You were trained by my dad?" the nurse gasped. "Am I Minato-sensei is your father?" she asked. "Oh come on, take away the whisker marks and I look just like him." Naruto sighed, leaning back on the bed. The nurse looked at him, turning her head and smiling. "I suppose you do," she said with a smile. "My name is Rin Amino, by the way. I was a medic in my sensei's team. It's a pleasure to meet you." Naruto blinked and smiled. "Amino, you mean like Iruka Amino, my old academy teacher?" Naruto asked. "He's my husband," Rin said. Suddenly there was a lot of commotion that got both of their attention.
"Like hell, I'm going to calm down," a feminine voice screamed in the hall. "I'm told 12 years ago that my brother died only to find out that he's alive and is about to die all over again, and you're telling me to calm down." The door suddenly exploded open to show an unconscious man and two Anbu agents, a woman with blonde hair that was tied up into buns wearing a cat mask and a man with long red hair that covered half his hawk mask.
"Well, I'll be damned," the red-haired on said. "He looks just like your old man Kamachi." "It looks like he got your mom's eyes though, Toa," the woman replied.
"Not to be rude, but who the hell are you guys?" Naruto asked, looking at the two of them. The man chuckled and removed his mask to reveal a pointed face and bright blue eyes like Naruto's. "The name's Toa Uzumaki, kid. This psycho bitch is Kamachi Nakamazi. We're your brother and sister," Toa explained with a smile after ducking under a few knives Kamachi threw at him. "Well, half-brother and sister if you want to get technical." "I have siblings," Naruto said, stunned. Kamachi walked forward, taking off her mask and knelt down next to Naruto. Naruto looked into her bright green eyes and round angelic face and couldn't help but smile. Kamachi just threw herself onto Naruto and hugged him. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you, Naruto. I was told you died with Kushina," she said. Naruto, still smiling, held her against him as she cried. "That reminds me, the next time I see that bastard Danzo I'm messing up the good half of his body," Toa said, clutching at his right arm.
"Save a bit for me, Toa," Kamachi hissed, venom dripping in her voice. "Danzo?" Naruto asked. "The son of a bitch who told us you were dead," Toa clarified. "I never did trust him," Rin said. "You're the one who saved Naruto?" Kamachi said, standing up. "Yes, ma'am," Rin said. "Rin Amino at your service. I trained under your father." Kamachi gave the woman a warm smile. It's nice to meet your Miss Amino, Kamachi said. You okay there, Naruto? Toa said. You've been out of it for a while now. Can you blame me? Naruto chuckled. I've just found out I've actually got some family out there. He smiled at his brother and sister. Naruto, glad to see you're up and about, the Hokage said, walking into the room. Hey old man. Naruto said as everyone just stared at him in shock. Is there any particular reason you didn't tell me that my dad was the fourth Hokage, or that I had a brother and sister? The old Hokage stared at him with wide eyes. When I was on my way to death, I bumped into my parents, and then I wake up and here are my brother and sister. I didn't want it to get out because your father had many enemies to know about you. Sarutobi explained. Naruto nodded. Fair enough. Naruto said, but why didn't you at least tell Kamachi and Toa that I was alive?
Because I did not know that they were your brother and sister. Sarutobi stated. Naruto blinked. There was never any record of your parents having any children, and when your father became Hokage he brought them on as his personal bodyguards.
I see. Naruto said. So, what is the overall extent of the damage, Doc? Everyone turned to Rin, who was glancing at her chart.
Well, the good news is that so long as the iron is working, Naruto's going to be just fine. She said before her face fell. Unfortunately, the bad news is that a strange plant managed to get stuck inside Naruto's body and it is impossible to remove it. The iron is literally the only thing keeping him alive.
What about the fox's chakra? Naruto asked. That's the thing, I can't see to find any indication that the fox is even inside you, Naruto. Rin said. It's probably got something to do with the seal, Naruto said. Orochimaru put on him. May I see the seal, Naruto? Sarutobi asked. Naruto nodded and called up the seal on his stomach. He never was very good at seals. Sarutobi said, his fingers glowing. Naruto, this is going to sting a bit, he said before slamming his hand onto Naruto's stomach. Naruto gave a surprised shout of pain, but then he felt the fox's chakra slowly starting to pour through him. Never thought I'd be happy to feel all that again, Naruto muttered. Naruto groaned a little as he laid back and let his body start to heal itself. Hey, how the heck did I get here anyway? A pair of sound genin brought you here to the tower after they found you unconscious, Sarutobi said. I had them placed in an interrogation room until we could talk to them. You mind if I go and talk to them? Naruto asked, swinging his legs around the edge of the bed. Naruto, you shouldn't be moving around after such trauma, Rin said. Naruto pushed the small of his back, causing it to pop a bit.
Rin, when people have been trying to kill you your entire life, you tend to be a quick healer, Naruto said with a smile. Sarutobi meanwhile chuckled and held his arm out for Naruto to follow him. Naruto followed him and glanced back at his brother and sister.
You guys are coming, aren't you? Naruto said with his trademark foxy grin. Kamachi and Toa smiled and followed their little brother. The aging fire shadow led Naruto to a room with a one-way mirror. Inside, Kin was sitting at the table looking around nervously and Dosu was pacing. This is them, huh? Naruto asked. Sarutobi nodded. You're going in there, aren't you, bro? Toa said, looking down at Naruto with a smirk. What do you think? Naruto said with a smirk, making his way to the door. Opening it, he looked back and forth as Kin and Dosu looked at him. There was an awkward silence as Naruto looked back and forth between them. How are you feeling? Kin asked. Naruto gave a small smile and held his hand over the iron disc in his chest. I've seen better days, Naruto said quietly. Not all of them have been that great, but they've been better. Well, at least we got you back here in one piece, Dosu said, walking up to Naruto and holding out his arm. I'm Dosu, she's my sister Kin. It's nice to meet you both, Naruto said, shaking Dosu's hand. My name is Naruto, Naruto Uzumaki Nakamazi. So, what are you guys going to do now? Well, we can't very well go back to Sound. Orochimaru will have our heads on pikes, Dosu said. Orochimaru, huh? Naruto said with a smirk. Well, maybe I can cut a deal with the Hokage. I've actually got some plans for the future and I'd like you guys to be part of it. But I have to know what that freaky-ass snake is planning. Kin and Dosu looked at each other before nodding. You've got a deal, Naruto, Dosu said. Naruto gestured to the door. As they left the room, Naruto nodded to the Hokage, who nodded in return and led Dosu and Kin away to speak with them. Don't make me a liar, old man. Naruto said, looking over at the Hokage. When I get out of here, I expect to see them in better condition if possible. Of course, Naruto, the Hokage said. I'll have Rin look after them. Naruto nodded. I'm gonna go for a walk around this place, Naruto said, glancing at Kamachi and Toa. Then nodded and Naruto started to walk through the tower. When he reached the room of the Sand siblings, he stopped before knocking on the door. It opened to reveal a girl with several pigtails and sandy blonde hair. Hi there. One of your teammates wouldn't happen to have a demon sealed inside him, would he? Naruto asked casually, causing the girl's eyes to widen. That would be me. A voice growled inside the room. The red-haired boy with a gourd on his back stood before Naruto with his arms crossed. Gaara, wasn't it? Naruto said, stepping forward. Gaara nodded. Name's Naruto Uzumaki Nakamazi, container of the nine-tailed demon fox. This phrase caused everyone in the room to go wide eyes. Which demon you got? The one-tailed raccoon dog. Gaara said. You don't look like you get much sleep, man, Naruto said. Whenever Gaara falls asleep, the demon takes over, the other boy on Gaara's team said. So that means that your seal is screwed up, Naruto said, turning to look at Gaara. Mind if I see it? Naruto asked. Gaara looked at him questioningly before raising his shirt. Naruto looked at the seal with a critical eye. It looked similar to Naruto's own, except it didn't have any of the sun rays. Like Naruto's, and the spiral around it seemed to have a large crack running through it. Naruto gave a long, low whistle. No wonder your inner demon takes control when you fall asleep, dude. This seal is a piece of shit. What are you talking about? Gaara's second teammate demanded. See for yourself, Naruto said, channeling his chakra and calling up his own seal. I see, and I guess that the fox doesn't take over when you go to sleep, the girl said. Nope, damn thing just gives me the occasional nightmare, Naruto said when a thought struck him. Hey Kamachi, you there? Naruto's sister appeared in a swirl of wind. What's up, Naruto? She asked. Did Dad teach you anything about sealing? Naruto asked. Kamachi nodded. Of course he did, Kamachi said. Think you can fix Gaara's seal here? Naruto asked. Kamachi knelt down and examined Gaara's seal, an almost disgusted look on her face. Geez, whoever made this seal doesn't even deserve to be called an armature. Kamachi spat. This seal is nothing but a piece of shit, give me a second. She proceeded to go through a series of hand seals, her hands beginning to glow as she placed them on Gaara's stomach. He let out a howl of pain before he slumped over. Gaara! The boy shouted, rushing to his teammate's side. What did you do to my baby brother? The girl demanded, grabbing her weapon. She got her answer by the sound of deep snoring, the kind of snoring that sounded like a bear growling. Just fixed his seal so he'll be able to get some sleep without that monster in him taking over, Kamachi said with a smile. So he's, the girl asked, wide-eyed, sleeping like a log for the first time in probably 10 years. Naruto said with a smile. I never got your name, by the way, he said with a flirtatious smile. It's Temari, she said, blushing slightly. If the next day, Naruto was sitting with Temari and her brother Kakuro. Gaara was still asleep, along with the Konoha Team 8. They were all mad as hell at Sakura and Sasuke for abandoning Naruto and letting him fall to his death. But Naruto wasn't trying to think of that. Alright, so there we are, I'm using my shadow clones to keep Zabuza preoccupied while I transform into a giant shuriken. He throws me in another shuriken at that no-browed whack job. He catches the shuriken and jumps over me, but then I drop the transformation, throw a kuni and free Hatakai from the water prison. Naruto finished explaining some of the details of his first real mission. Weren't you scared? Hinata asked timidly. Out of my mind, couldn't move scared. Naruto confirmed. But I just had to remember that I promised myself I would never run away again, and you know I never go back on my word. Not bad, kid, Kankuro said, raising his cup to him. Then he looked past Naruto and smiled. Gaara, he said, jumping over the table with Temari, and ran up to their little brother. How are you doing? Gaara yawned and stretched his arms and back. Pretty good, he replied. A good night's sleep will probably do that to you, Naruto said with a smile. Yeah, probably, Gaara said, giving a smile. Thank you and your sister for fixing my seal. That's what family's for, little brother, Naruto said, walking over to Gaara and slinging his arm around his shoulder. Brother? Gaara asked. Well, I've been thinking about asking your sister out on a date, Naruto whispered. Kankuro is okay with it, but according to them you're supposed to be the scary, dangerous one. Just keep this in mind, if you break her heart, Gaara growled. You break my legs? Naruto finished. No, I just break your entire body with sand. Gaara finished with a smirk that said he was joking but was also dead serious. Naruto gulped. He had heard enough about Gaara to know that he had no problem killing someone, and now that he had a real reason to kill, he was that more dangerous. Naruto, what did Gaara mean when he said sister? Shino asked. Oh yeah, turns out I've got a couple of half-siblings in Anbu. Naruto said with a smile. I'd introduce you to them, but they're out in the forest of death right now. Do you have a sister, and is she a babe? Kiba asked with all the bluntness of a club. She is beautiful. Naruto admitted. But if you do anything to her, Kiba, it'll be a race between me and my brother on who takes you out first. Kiba gulped but nodded at the threat. Naruto? Asked a new voice in confusion. Team 10 and Team Guy walked in, Shikamaru looking as bored as ever but generally confused. Choji was munching on his seemingly endless supply of ships. Ino was looking around, having been the one who had spoken. Lee was looking like he always did. Neji was looking bored, and Tenten was actually looking at Naruto with concern. Where are Sakura and Sasuke? You mean those two useless traitors? Hinata asked, surprising everyone in attendance. What do you mean traitors? Shikamaru asked. Naruto explained how Sakura and Sasuke had let him fall to his death and how Dosu and Kin saved his life. By the end of it, Choji, to his horror, had crushed his chips in anger. Shikamaru was actually looking pissed off. Ino was a mixture of stunned and enraged. Neji was still impassive, and both looked thoroughly pissed off. What the two of them did was most unyouthful, Lee shouted. For once, Lee, we are in complete and total agreement, Tenten said, slamming a fist into her palm. You know, I think I could use a couple of new targets for target practice. I can't believe she would do that, Ino said, dropping into a chair. I mean, sure, Sasuke was fighting this Orochimaru. Naruto looked at her with a raised eyebrow before he shrugged, admitting to himself that that actually was a fair excuse. But Sakura, I mean, if Shikamaru or Choji were falling, I would at least try and throw a kuni to try and catch them. I think it would take more than just one kuni to hold Choji, Naruto said with a smile. Despite the situation and the mood, everyone started to chuckle and smile. Hey Naruto, came a familiar voice. Naruto turned and had to do a double take. Kin was walking forward dressed in a fishnet shirt, miniskirt, and boots, while the young man walking next to her, Naruto assumed it was Dosu, was wearing a long coat, black shirt and pants, and his bandages were removed, revealing his face for the first time. He wore an eye patch over his left eye, showing a long scar across it, as well as a thin X-shaped scar over his nose, a cross-shaped scar on his left cheek, a longer jagged scar along his right jawline, and another scar going along from his forehead and going down towards his right eye. Both were wearing new Konoha forehead protectors on their forehead with their slashed sound ones tied to their arms. Good Lord, Dosu! Naruto gasped upon seeing his Dosu's face for the first time. Just a few battle scars from back home, he said as if it were nothing. Naruto nodded sadly, know that he would probably be just as bad, if not worse, if the fox's healing never left him with any scars. So Kin, Naruto said, looking the girl up and down, what's up with the outfit? That John and Anko had some cloths that fit me, Kin replied, giving a small twirl. What do you think? Well, you look, Naruto stammered. With a seductive smile, Kin strutted over to him and slid her finger along his jawline. Maybe later I'll show you what's under these cloths. She purred. Naruto gulped as he felt blood rush to his face and between his legs. Tamari meanwhile was also going a little red with anger and jealousy. Getting jealous Tamari, Kankuro muttered, only to get smacked in the head by her fan. The rest of the day passed with all the Leaf Ninjas getting to know the former Sound Ninjas and the Sand Ninjas. NIF. The next day was the final day of the second exam. Naruto was bummed because he wouldn't have a chance to become a Chunin like his friends. Bummed you're not making it, little bro? Tao asked. Naruto just shrugged. Who knows,
Maybe next time the exam rolls around I'll get a couple of teammates that'll actually watch my back. Naruto said. Actually, your teammates just walked in the tower. Komachi said, appearing at her brother's sides. Naruto gave a small smile. So they made it through, huh? Should make things interesting. Naruto said, standing up and stretching. Well, since the third round's going to be a fight, you're going to need something to protect the iron system. He said. Pulling out a scroll, he called up a red armor chest piece. During the Shinobi War, Mom was called the Red Flash. Don't let it get around, but Minato's Flying Thunder God Jutsu was actually based on an Uzumaki Jutsu called the Blood Streak Jutsu, pretty much the same as the fourth's, just less range and no seal to streak with. Naruto smiled as he and his brother helped put the armor on. Well, if we're giving out family momentous, Komachi said, calling up a white jacket with flames along the tail and the image of a red-tailed fox on the back, specially made based on Dad's old coat. Naruto took it and held it in his hands for a second before pulling it on. Thanks, guys, Naruto said with a smile. Well, time to go meet my teammates. Naruto said, going to meet up with Sakura and Sasuke. NIF. Sakura and Sasuke stood before Iruka, their old academy teacher, unable to look him in the eye. Iruka-sensei. In the forest, Sakura said, tears almost in his eyes. Damn, Sakura, you almost sounded worried about me there for a second. Naruto said, walking forward, his new coat billowing out around him and his armor shining in the light. Naruto, you jerk, I thought you were dead. Sakura shouted, charging forward with her fist held back. Naruto almost effortlessly caught the punch that was aimed at him, keeping his eyes closed. Get this straight, Haruno, the days of you using me as your punching bag is over. Naruto said before looking her dead in the eye. That Naruto died when you let him fall to his death in the Forest of Death. Without another word he walked past Sakura and stood by Iruka. How are you feeling, Naruto? Iruka asked. Naruto shrugged. I've been better, he admitted. Of course I'd probably be a hell of a lot worse if it wasn't for that wife of yours. He said with a smile. Iruka chuckled at his favorite student. She is quite the woman, isn't she? Iruka said with a smile. Well, you three had better get going. Will do, Iruka-sensei, Naruto said, waving at him. Say hi to the missus for me. Naruto walked past his sensei and made his way to the arena. You've changed, Naruto, Sasuke said, like you actually give to shits, Uchiha. Naruto growled, walking on and ignoring Sakura and Sasuke. Naruto stood at the front of the line for his team. Sasuke and Sakura were bickering about something on Sasuke's neck, but Naruto was doing his best to ignore them. Glancing around, he saw that the only team he didn't recognize was Kabuto's, and his teammates looked like exact duplicates of each other. Focusing on the Hokage's speech about how the Chunin exams were a chance for villages to avoid war and for the villages to show off their strength to the lords. Just as the third was about to explain the reason for the exams, a new ninja appeared with bags under his eyes, causing Naruto's face to crack into a smile. Hayate Gecko. His girlfriend was on the same squad as Tawa and Komachi, and Naruto knew he was a good guy. Sorry to interrupt, Lord Hokage, but I think explaining the exam is my job. Hayate explained. Of course, please proceed. The Hokage said, taking a step back. Now, because we have so many participants for the third exam and so many important representatives coming to the third exam, we are going to have a preliminary exam right now. Explained Hayate. Now, Kiba shouted. Yes, now, Hayate said. Now I'm sure that some of you are tired after the second exam, so I will give you all the option of dropping out now if you need to. While Sasuke and Sakura were bickering behind him, Naruto saw that Kabuto was resigning from the exam. Naruto had a bad feeling about that guy. If it really was his 7th time taking the exam, shouldn't he have been able to fight after all that? His train of thought was broken, however, as Sasuke finally snapped at Sakura, saying he was going to stay in the fight. Will you two shut up? He hissed. Look, Sakura, if Sasuke wants to be a big macho and probably get himself killed, let him. After all, death and being a ninja go hand in hand. What would you know about death? Sakura demanded. You let me fall to my death, remember? Naruto growled, glaring at the pink-haired girl who flinched under the blonde's gaze. A moment later, when it was clear no one was going to drop out, a board flashed a series of names before landing on 2. Sasuke Uchiha vs Yoroi Akato. Naruto glanced over at Kabuto's two teammates, seeing the one with darker glasses step forward. The first match will now begin. Will all others please proceed to the upper areas? Hayate requested. Everyone completed while Naruto stood as far away from Sakura as he could. Naruto, what are you doing? Sakura demanded. Get over here. He can stand wherever he wants to, Sakura. Ino said, shooting a glare at the pink-haired girl. Did something happen in the forest? Kakashi asked, appearing behind Sakura and looking back and forth between his two students. Let me put it to you this way, Naruto said, looking at his one-eyed teacher. I don't want to be around anyone lower than scum. When Kakashi understood what Naruto was talking about, his eye widened and he looked at Sakura before snapping his book shut and turning to watch Sasuke's match. The match itself had Naruto sniggering slightly as Sasuke wasn't able to use his Sharingan or use chakra because of whatever had happened to him in the forest. To make matters worse, his opponent, Yoroi, had the ability to absorb chakra. How much longer do you think he'll last, Gaara? Naruto asked, looking over at the sand ninja. I give him 5 more minutes before he gets knocked out, Gaara stated, but was interrupted. What the hell? Naruto and Lee shouted in unison as Sasuke performed the more that Sasuke had done on him. Even as he finished of the move with his own style, Naruto was still gripping the railing in anger. That no good, move-stealing piece of shit, Naruto growled. It took me forever to be able to develop the speed and power to do that. Lee growled. Naruto bowed his head to the rest of the group of 3 leaf ninja teams and 1 sand ninja team. All right. If any of us end up fighting him in the finals, we beat the shit out of him, no holding back, just full-blown ass-kicking, agreed? Asked Naruto. Agreed, the other 12 ninjas said. When Naruto looked back up, he glanced at the board as the names continued to scroll through names. Masumi Tsurugi vs Kankuro. Looks like you're up, Puppet Master. Naruto smiled as Kankuro walked down to meet the second member of Kabuto's team. Their fight was a real freaky one in Naruto's opinion. Masumi had the ability to stretch his body like rubber and at one point seemed to have broken Kabuto's neck. When that happened, Naruto was about to jump over the railing to help his adoptive brother, but was stopped by Gaara and Temari's hands on his shoulders. What are you doing? Naruto demanded, stunned by the calm looks on their faces. Wait for it, was Gaara's reply. Before Naruto could ask what he was waiting for, Kankuro's head spun around 180 degrees. Then the bundle on his back began to unravel and Kankuro jumped out of it. Naruto's jaw dropped at the sight before it turned into a smile. See, Naruto, he's okay, Temari said as Naruto relaxed a little. I guess, but I'm still gonna kick his ass later, Naruto said. Temari giggled at the boy as her brother walked up the stairs. Not bad, huh? Kankuro asked before Naruto hit him on the head. What was that for? For making me think you were dead, Naruto snapped. Kankuro was about to say something, but he saw the worried look in Naruto's eyes and gave him a smile. Sorry, Naruto, he said. Well, at least I won't get so freaked out next time, Naruto said, smiling at his friend. But seriously, Kankuro, that puppet is just plain weird. What was that, you little punk? Kankuro asked, getting into Naruto's face. Both grinned at the start at each other eye to eye. Naruto, Temari said, tapping Naruto. The Fox container looked up at the board to see the next match. Sakura Haruno vs Ino Yamanaka. Sakura looked at Ino and then at Naruto, who looked the girl dead in the eye before turning back to Ino. Kick her ass, Naruto said. Ino nodded and Sakura paled as the two of them made their way to the floor. Kakashi poofed behind Naruto. I heard about what happened in the forest, he said. So then you can understand why I'm pissed off at Haruno and Uchiha. Naruto growled. It's what I told you all in the beginning. Those who abandon their mission are scum, but those who abandon their teammates are lower than scum. Kakashi said. I'm sorry to say that I think I've failed as a sensei. I don't think you really have, Kakashi-sensei. It's because Sasuke's too full of himself to be a real ninja and Sakura's too focused on worshipping the ground he walks upon. Naruto said, looking back down at the match. So how do you think this match is going to end up? Kakashi asked as the match began. The two of them are pretty much equal in terms of combat, Naruto said as the two girls began to fight one another. But if I were a betting man, I'd probably bet on Ino to take this fight. Why would you say that? Tenten asked, glancing over at Naruto. Call it a hunch, Naruto said with a smirk. The battle raged on for a while until Ino managed to trap Sakura and use her mind transfer jutsu. Game over, Naruto said as Sakura raised her hand. Sakura Haruno, surrender the match, she said. The winner of the match is Ino Yamanaka, Hayate said as Ino returned to her body. Without even looking at Sakura as she burst into tears, Ino walked away before pausing. You were nipped while you were still a bud, Sakura, she said, not looking at the pink-haired girl. You never got the chance to bloom properly. And with that, Ino continued to walk up the stairs. She stood by her teammates, tears silently streaming down her face. You okay, Ino? Choji asked. I had hoped we could patch things up and be friends after all this, but, Ino said, wiping away her tears. Shikamaru gave Ino a look and placed a hand on her shoulder. She turned into him and started to cry. Naruto frowned at the sight before reaching over and rubbed Ino's back. While they were comforting their friend, the next match was decided. Tenten Yumino vs Tamari. Seeing the names, Naruto did a double take before dropping his jaw. He has a daughter too? Naruto asked, stunned as he looked down at the bun-haired girl. What, you didn't know about her? Kiba asked. She's my cousin, Rin's my aunt. She was just better with weapons than she was with dogs. Then how come you never called Iruka-sensei uncle or something? Naruto asked. Trying to keep home and work separate, Kiba said like it was obvious. Naruto just stared at him before sighing in defeat. The match was a complete blowout. Tenten, was specialized in long-range weapons, was a complete mismatch against the wind-commanding Tamari. Naruto had to hand it to Tenten's determination though, the bun-haired girl just would not give up. But she did loose and had every weapon she used thrown back at her. After that, Tenten started to fall and was about to hit Tamari's fan, but Naruto jumped off the railing and caught Tenten. You fought good, Tenten. I'm sure your father would be proud of you. Naruto said. And you didn't do half bad yourself, Tamari. Thanks, Naruto. They both said but looked at each other and glared. Naruto sighed. These two would be fighting like cats and dogs for a long time. Speaking of dogs, as Naruto glanced up at the board, he saw that his name appear. Naruto Uzumaki vs Kiba Inazumi. My turn finally, Naruto whispered. You stay here, I'll help her back up, Tamari said, taking Tenten from Naruto and heading back up to the stands as Kiba walked down. You stay back, Akamaru, we don't want to hurt Naruto too badly, Kiba said. Akamaru, get back here, I don't need a handicap, and Kiba, I'm insulted that you would even think of giving me one, Naruto said, cracking his knuckles. Kiba looked back and forth between Naruto and Akamaru before he laughed. You heard him, Akamaru. He wants to get his ass kicked so bad, I say we let him, Kiba said. Naruto Uzumaki vs Kiba Inazumi. Hayate said. Oh yeah, about that, Naruto said, shooting a glance at the Hokage, who gave a smile and a nod. The names Naruto Uzumaki Nakamazi, son of Kushina Uzumaki, the Red Whirlpool of the Whirlpool Village, and Minato Nakamazi, the fourth Hokage. Everyone in the room who didn't know about the two's connection went wide-eyed. I can't believe I never saw it before, Kakashi whispered. Take away the whisker marks and he looks exactly like Sensei. The most obvious things are sometimes the hardest to grasp, my eternal rival, Guy said, looking at Kakashi. The other senseis looked at Guy. He only spoke normally and sagely when he was serious. So I'm taking on the fourth's kid, huh? Said Kiba, glancing at Akamaru before turning back to Naruto. Don't think that's the reason I didn't want you holding back on me, Kiba, Naruto said. Hey, I was just trying to be a pal since you nearly died, Kiba said with a smirk. Then you're all ready? Asked Hayate. Both sides nodded. Then begin. Kiba tossed Akamaru a solider pill. Time to show you what I'm made of, Naruto, Kiba said. Right back at you, buddy, Naruto said. Wearing similar grins, the two of them charged at each other. The overall fight is the same as the canon, so I'm going to just summarize it a little bit. Naruto and Kiba's fight was probably one of the better ones so far, with Kiba and Akamaru double teaming Naruto, with Akamaru turning into a clone of Kiba. The two of them bombarded Naruto with their fang over fang while Naruto tried countering with almost everything he could think of, from shadow clones to transformation jutsus. Eventually he managed to trick Kiba into knocking out Akamaru. So maybe you got me to knock out Akamaru, but you still can't beat me in straight taijutsu. Kiba said as he began his tunneling fang. I really hope this works. Naruto said as Kiba came spinning towards him. Naruto crossed his arms, charging chakra into the iron. He spread his arms and fired a blast of red chakra at Kiba, sending him crashing into a wall. When the dust cleared, Kiba was pulling himself out of the new hole shaped for him. Ow! He muttered before he fell forward. Winner, Naruto Uzumaki Nakamazi. Hayate said. Naruto walked over and crouched down next to Kiba. You okay, Fido? He asked. Don't call me that fox face. Kiba groaned, turning his head to look at Naruto. The boy smiled and reached down to help the boy up. A minute later the medics came and took him and Akamaru away. Hinata stopped them to give them some medical cream for the boy and his dog. After they had been taken away, Naruto made his way back up. Amazing fight, Naruto, Kakashi said. What was that last jutsu? It wasn't a jutsu, more like an experiment. Naruto said. Experiment, Asuma said. Yeah, I was trying to see if I could channel the you-know-what's chakra through the iron and use it as an attack. Naruto said. Guess I got lucky that it worked. The senseis all looked at Naruto before Guy started to laugh, soon followed by Kakashi, then Asuma, and finally Kurenai gave her own chuckles. I still can't believe you beat Kiba. Kurenai said. He's the best fighter on my team. Probably second only to Lee in taijutsu. Naruto admitted. But a ninja uses everything he has at his disposal. Whether it's his puppy dog partner, or a demon sealed inside him. He added in a hushed voice. A second later Kurenai gasped and Guy went pale. Naruto spun around and saw the next match. Hinata Hyuga versus Neji Hyuga. Family feud, Naruto muttered. I'm guessing this isn't good. Not good at all, kid. Asuma said. They part of different sides of the family. He's branch house, sort of like servants, while she's main house, the masters. And let me guess, branch hates house. Naruto said, glancing down at the two Hyugas beginning to square off. With Neji telling Hinata she should give up. The more and more they boys spoke, the more and more pissed off Naruto became. Hinata, he shouted down, kick this guy's ass just so he'll shut up. Hinata looked up at him with wide eyes. You have the power to do great things, Hinata. You're strong, now prove to this whiny ass bitch boy just how strong you are, Hinata Hyuga. Hinata closed her eyes, smiling. When she opened them, her bloodline was active and her eyes burned with determination. Naruto's encouragement, however, did not give Hinata all the strength she needed. Neji slowly defeated her by sealing off her chakra points. Even when she nearly could not move, Hinata still refused to quit, even when she was coughing up blood. How can she keep moving? Kankuro asked, stunned. We Konoha ninja are different than some ninja. Naruto said. Our true strength isn't measured by strength of taijutsu or the ferocity or number of our ninjutsus. It's our strength of spirit that forces us to move on. As Naruto finished his speech, Hinata charged at Neji only to be nailed in the chest, causing her to stagger back, blood flowing from her mouth. Submit, Hinata. You cannot hope to defeat me. Neji said. You're wrong, Neji. Hinata said. I won't quit. If I do end up losing this fight, then I'll go down fighting on me feet. Neji glared at her and shot forward for the kill, only to have his fingers slam into something metallic. Rubbing his fingers, he looked and saw that someone had appeared before him to block his strike. You fought well, Hinata, Naruto said, holding the injured girl and slowly lowering her to the floor. Your sensei is very proud of you. He looked up at the red-eyed woman who was indeed beaming with pride, and so am I. Hinata smiled before she closed her eyes. As soon as she did, Naruto's smile disappeared and his expression became serious. Where the hell are those medics? Naruto demanded. Right here, Naruto. Rin shouted, rushing in and taking Hinata from him. Take care of her, please. Naruto begged. I will, Naruto, I promise. Rin said, rushing out with the other. I don't know why you care so much about her life. Neji growled. She's weak and doesn't deserve. He was cut off as Naruto sucker punched him in the jaw, sending him staggering back. You've better hope and pray that we don't end up fighting in the finals, Neji. Naruto growled looking down on him. Because if we do I'll make what you did to Hinata seem like a little bitch slap. That's enough Naruto, the Hokage shouted. Naruto looked back at the Hokage and then back to Neji before spitting at his feet and returning to his spot in the mezzanine. The board started to spin again selecting the next fight. Gaara of the Desert vs Rock Lee. Well, this should be interesting, Naruto said glancing back and forth between the two of them. He knew this was going to be a fight similar to Tenten vs Temari, except from what Naruto knew about Lee was that he was taijutsu only kind of fighter, an interesting matchup to go against Gaara's long-range sand. The two fighters jumped down and the match began. At first it seemed like Gaara would have this fight in the bag because of Lee's apparent lack of ninjutsu or genjutsu. But as soon as Lee dropped the weights he had wrapped around his legs, creating a couple of dust clouds where they hit, Lee was quickly moving too fast for the eyes to see. Kankuro and Temari were stunned when Lee actually managed to hit Gaara. After a while though, Lee's advanced speed and his use of those lotus moves seemed to be taking their toll on Lee's body, and it wasn't long before Gaara, even after having the holy shit knocked out of him, had him encased in sand and delivered the ultimatum: surrender or I'll crush you. Lee sighed in defeat. He knew that he who fight and runs away would live to fight another day. I surrender, he said. As soon as he did, Gaara released the sand and fell back. Damn, now that was a real fight, Gaara said with a smile. Lee returned the smile before he collapsed. Naruto jumped down and created a shadow clone so that he could help his friend and younger brother to their feet. Lee was taken by the medics for treatment, but Gaara said that he was okay and didn't need medical attention. With 3 fighters left, the board began its rotation for the final match. Whoever wasn't chosen would get to go straight into the finals. Shikamaru Nara vs Choji Akamaiki. This is going to be troublesome. Shikamaru groaned. Maybe I should just withdraw now. No Shikamaru, Choji yelled. I want to fight you, to see how well I can fight. Shikamaru looked at his best friend and sighed, shaking his head. Troublesome, he muttered and started to make his way to the battle floor. Thank you, Shikamaru whispered as he followed his teammate and best friend. Hayate looked back and forth between the two fighters, while Shikamaru looked lazy. Anyone who knew him or anything about the Nara clan knew that he was being serious and was already planning on how to fight Choji. Shikamaru Nara vs Choji Akamaiki begin. Hayate shouted and jumped away. Without wasting a second, Choji started going through hand signs. Body expansion jutsu, shouted Choji. His torso expanded, appearing to be a large boulder as his arms, legs, and head disappeared into it. Human boulder, shouted Choji. Using chakra, Choji shot forward. Shikamaru started jumping around to avoid Choji. Jumping against the wall, Shikamaru shot out as Choji drew closer. As soon as he landed, Shikamaru proceeded to create one-hand sai. Shadow possession jutsu, Shikamaru shouted, firing his shadow and trapping Choji. 2 options Choji, Shikamaru said calmly. Either surrender or I'll have to hurt you. Choji sighed and smiled. Guess I've got to give up, sorry Shikamaru. Choji said. Don't worry about it Choji. Shikamaru said. You fought well. Winner Shikamaru Nara, Hayate said. Shino Abrama will continue on to the finals. Will all finalists please come down here? As the group of 8 stood before the Hokage as he explained the true meaning of the Chunin exams. After the explanations were completed, the Hokage told the combatants to select a number for the tournament. Ino, 8, Naruto, 1, Temari, 7, Kankuro, 5, Gaara, 3, Shikamaru, 9, Neji, 2, Shino, 6. This left Sasuke at 4. And so the fights would be. Round 1. Ino vs Shikamaru. Round 2. Naruto vs Neji. Round 3. Gaara vs Sasuke. Round 4. Kankuro vs Shino. With Temari fighting the winner of Ino vs Shikamaru. You all have 1 month to prepare for the finals. I suggest you use this time to develop new skills since everyone has seen what you all have. Good luck to you all, the Hokage said, dismissing the 8 ninjas. The next day, the Yumino family made their way up to the Hokage Tower responding to the summons. On their way up, they bumped into Rock Lee and the Sand siblings. Hey Lee, what are you doing here? Tenten asked. I was summoned by Lord Hokage, the same as these 3. Lee said. Strange, what would the Hokage want with 3 genin from another village? Iruka said. As the small party made their way up to the Hokage's office, they bumped into the man himself. Ah, you are all here. The Hokage said. Host is currently waiting for you in my office. What do you mean, Lord Hokage? Iruka asked. You'll see, the Hokage said. Curiously, the group entered the Hokage's office to find Naruto sitting behind the desk with Tawa and Kamachi standing on one side of the desk and Dosu and Kin standing on the other. Iruka, Tenten, Rin, Lee, Gaara, Konkuro, Tamari, I've got a proposition for you all. Naruto said with a smile. The month passed. Naruto stood atop the Hokage monument, his father's coat billowing in the breeze and his mother's armor shining in the sun. He also now wore a pair of gauntlets and greaves to match the armor. Raising 2 fingers to his ear he spoke, Kin, is everything set? Yes sir. Kin's voice crackled over the radio. We're ready to go when the shit hits the fan. Understood. I'm going over to the stadium now, Naruto said, make sure everyone's in place. Naruto removed his finger and, in a flash, disappeared from his perch. At the arena, everyone from the humble Ichirakus to Hokage and Kazekage were in attendance. Genma Shiranui had taken the place of Gekko Hayate as the exam's proctor and got ready to start. Suddenly, Naruto appeared in some kind of flash, grabbing everyone's attention. I'm not late, am I? Naruto asked. Just in time, Genma said. Naruto looked down the line and saw that Sasuke was absent. Anybody seen Duck Ass? Naruto asked. He's your teammate, Neji said with a smirk. Shouldn't you know? I've been too busy to worry about that backstabbing bastard. Naruto growled. And don't think I haven't forgotten about your ass kicking you've got coming. He narrowed his eyes at the Hyuga, who just looked away with a sneer. So where is the Uchiha? Last I heard, he was training under Kakashi Hatake, so knowing him, he'll probably be late. Genma said. Late enough to be disqualified? Asked Naruto with a smirk. I mean, we have all these potential clients here, should we let them think that Konoha ninjas tolerate tardiness for scheduled appointments? Genma and several of the genin smirked and chuckled at the boy's way of hopefully boosting Konoha's rep and sabotaging the guy who almost got him killed. Genma glanced up at the Hokage, who chuckled at his grandson's skill in deception and nodded. If Sasuke Uchiha does not arrive in time for his match, then he will be disqualified. Genma announced, getting a lot of boos and complaints from most of the people in the crowd. Silence, the Hokage shouted, effectively shutting everyone up. If a ninja cannot arrive in time for scheduled appointments, then he does not deserve the rank of Chunin. With that being said, I am proud to welcome you all here, and may the final round of the Chunin exam begin. The first match between Shikamaru Nara and Ino Yamanaka will now begin. Genma stated. Actually, I'd like to withdraw, Ino said, grabbing everyone's attention. Sorry Shikamaru, but even after all the training I did last month, I know I'm still no match for you mentally or physically. She smiled at him. Maybe next time, Shikamaru nodded and, deep down, was glad that she was withdrawing. He'd already had to fight one of his teammates, he didn't want to take on the other. All right then, with Ino off the board, the first match will be between Naruto Uzumaki and Neji Hyuga. Genma said. Would all other combatants please leave the arena? As everyone left, the Sand siblings shooting Naruto a few smiles, Neji and Naruto stood apart from one another. You should withdraw now as well, Neji suggested. You were fated for defeat the second I was chosen as your opponent. Naruto started tapping his foot and drumming his fingers against his arm in annoyance. Look, you arrogant, white-eyed bastard, you may think you're a badass as a Hyuga prodigy, which I respect, believe it or not, but the way you're going about it, attacking your cousin, you owning family, that's just begging for someone to put you in your place. Naruto slammed his fist into his hand. And unfortunately for you, that someone is me. Genma, start the match please. You are a fool, Neji said, entering his gentle fist stance. Well, if both parties are in agreement, then let the first match of the Chunin exam finals, Genma said, bringing his hand down in a chopping motion, begin. In the stands, the rookies who hadn't made it to the finals were looking down at Naruto and Neji. As before, The group was giving Sakura the cold shoulder and they noticed that Hinata was wearing her coat a little more open than usual and seemed to be wearing what appeared to be an armor similar to Naruto's while Lee seemed to be wearing a strange set of gauntlets and greaves. Tenten also appeared a bit different than what they were used to her seeing. She was in a tight dress and had, of all things, a strange briefcase by her side. "Do you think Naruto'll be alright?" Choji asked, inhaling chips. "Of course he will be, he beat me after all," Kiba said proudly. Kiba's arrogance aside, Tenten said, "Naruto's not the same ninja he was a month ago." And to add to that, Lee said placing a hand on Hinata's shoulder, "He's got a damn good reason for kicking Neji's ass." "I thought he was your guy's teammate," Choji said, slightly confused. "Shouldn't you be cheering for him?" Tenten snorted and looked away. "Anyone who does something as unyouthful as try to kill someone as innocent and sweet as Hinata is no one we want to associate ourselves with," Lee said, his voice dripping with disgust. "Think of Neji as our team's version of Sasuke," Tenten said. "Ouch, that's harsh," Ino said as she joined the group. Any form of crush she had had on the Uchiha survivor had long since disappeared. "Well, it's not to that extreme, but I assume you get the idea," Lee said. Back down at the fight, Naruto had charged head first and started throwing punches and kicks. Neji dodged, parried, and blocked all of the armored blonde's attacks effortlessly. When he started to counter-attack, Naruto jumped back and away. "You are a fool for thinking you could attack a Hyuga head-on," Neji said. "Surrender now. Man, you're like a broken record, you know that," Naruto said. "I was just trying to judge your skills. Hinata gave me a few tips on the Hyuga fighting style over the last month. And she wasn't the only one giving me tips." Naruto shifted into the same hard fist stance used by Lee, one hand behind his back and the other raised as if beckoning him on. Up in the stands, everyone looked at Lee who sat smirking. Naruto suddenly disappeared in a blur of movement, far too fast for Neji to react against, and found Naruto's fist buried in his stomach before finding himself launched backward and buried in the wall. Naruto walked towards Neji with a small smirk on his face. "Hurts, don't it?" asked Naruto. "That's only a fraction of the power I've gained over the past month. Only a fraction of the pain I'm going to unleash on your sorry ass." Neji pulled himself out of the wall and glared at Naruto. "You think you can beat me because of a few tricks you've learned and the advice of a treacherous failure," Neji said, getting an eye twitch from Naruto at his insult to Hinata. "Fate has decreed that I will win this fight. Man, fate this, fate that, geez man, you're like a broken record. What made you such a pessimistic bastard?" Neji glared at Naruto and ripped off his headband and started his tirade about the main house enslaved the branch house with the caged bird seal and how his father died to protect the main house and the Byakugan. When he finished, Naruto was yawning. "You finished?" asked Naruto. "Look man, you got a bum rap and I agree that those bastards in the Hyuga clan need an ass whooping for what they do to you and your father, but you think you've got it bad. Let me show you what bad is." Naruto pressed a button on his armor and raised his armor on his stomach to show his seal. "You see this? This is the seal that the fourth Hokage, my father, used to seal the nine-tailed fox inside of me, his son. Now after thinking about it a bit, I get that he kind of had to use me because he trusted me with it, couldn't really ask anyone to do what he wasn't willing to do himself, and it was something of a convenience. And you know what I've gotten because of it? Hell, straight up hell. I've been beaten, overcharged, thrown out, and basically treated worse than you branch Hyugas. At least you all are treated as humans. The S of this village have treated me as less than dirt because of their own short-sightedness. So you think you've got it bad, Neji? You don't know shit." Naruto shot forward and unleashed a barrage of lightning-fast attacks on Neji, few of which the Hyuga was able to block. After a few moments, he was able to push Naruto off balance. "You are in the realm of my 8 trigrams," Neji said. He lashed out with a series of strikes from his charca-tipped fingers, but quickly found he was striking air. "Up here, Mr. All-Seeing Eyes," Naruto said. Neji looked up and his jaw dropped along with everyone else in the stadium. Naruto was hovering off the ground with his arms crossed and a smile on his face. "You like them? A little gift from Tamari of the desert. It's basically a variation of the tree walking exercise, except you're channeling chakra through special wind seals on the soles of my greaves, thus enabling flight. What does fate say about that Mr. Pessimist? Neji growled and leapt at Naruto. Naruto just grabbed Neji's arm and whirled around to throw him back to the ground. I cannot lose to you, fate has said that I will win. Neji said. Yeah, whatever, Naruto said, raising his fist. You remember that blast I nailed Kiba with during the prelims? He opened his hand to reveal a glowing blue orb. Here's a watered-down version of it. He fired a concentrated beam of chakra at Neji's chest, but Neji countered with his Kaiden Jutsu. Okay, that is impressive, but I've also picked up a little trick from Kankuro of the desert. Naruto said as his gauntlets suddenly sprang open to reveal several kunis, tri-pronged kunis. Weapon concealments. With a surge of chakra he fired the kuni in the air and they rained down upon the field. You know, I met my long-lost siblings. Well, it turns out that they were pretty good at my old man's jutsus, particularly the Flying Thunder God. Naruto said before he disappeared and started to knock Neji around by appearing and disappearing rapidly before he knocked him skyward. And then there's his other original jutsu. Naruto held his hand out, a concentrated sphere of chakra swirling in his hand. Rasengan. He roared and slammed the jutsu into Neji's chest before he turned around and slammed him to the ground. Fate doesn't have anything to do with how we live our lives, Neji, so you can sit around blaming everything on fate, or you can get off your ass and sew something about it. Winner of the first match, Naruto Uzumaki Nakamazi. Genma shouted to the mixed calls of the crowd. Naruto just kept walking, ignoring the jeers as well as the cheers. When he approached the fighter's box he smiled at his friends. So, what did you think of the first real combat test? Naruto asked. Nicely done, Gaara said. So you really got all that help from Hinata and the Sand siblings for this fight? Shikamaru asked. Naruto nodded. Wow, you must have really wanted to hurt Neji. To the same degree I want to hurt Sasuke. Naruto said. An impressive first round, wouldn't you say, Lord Kazekage? The Hokage asked. Indeed, the Kazekage hissed. The boy is more impressive than once believed. Is it true that he's the son of your late successor? It is, Saritobi confirmed, although I think he acts more like his mother. He added with a chuckle. After Genma called for Sasuke and Gaara to come down for the next match, Gaara stood on the field with his arms crossed while Sasuke didn't show up. They waited 10 minutes before Genma called the match in Gaara's favor. The crowd started their bitching when that happened and the Hokage had to unleash his killing intent to shut them all up again. After that, Shino tied with Kankuro and Shikamaru surrendered to Temari, claiming he was too low on chakra when he had her on the ropes. In the cage booth, Orochimaru, disguised as the Kazekage, was confused as to why the Sand siblings weren't sticking to the plan and why Gaara seemed so calm. Well, normal calm anyway, not his usual bottled-up storm kind of calm. When Naruto and Gaara stood on the field to begin their match, there was a swirl of leaves and Kakashi and Sasuke appeared. You're too late, Naruto said bluntly, shooting a look at the two of them. Sasuke's been disqualified. What? Kakashi and Sasuke shouted at the same time. It's true, Gaara said. Now please leave for mine and Naruto's match. Naruto had to admit, after Kamachi fixed Gaara's seal he had become much more polite along with not being a psychopathic killing machine. I'm an Uchiha, Sasuke started. And you're still responsible for showing up for appointments on time, just like Kakashi-sensei fails to do, Naruto interrupted, repeatedly. He added, so take off, Gaara and I have a fight to get to. Sasuke gritted his teeth and charged at Naruto. I was hoping he would do that, Naruto thought as he turned up his hand and fired a repulsar blast from his palm, knocking him off his feet and dropping him in front of Kakashi. Get him out of here, will you, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto said. Kakashi nodded and gathered Sasuke up in his arms and disappeared. Well, if that's all, Genma said. However, at that time, white feathers started to fall from the sky. And so it begins, Naruto said. He pressed his fingers against his ear. Attention all Ironmen, the invasion has begun. I repeat, the invasion has begun. All units, armor up. Naruto slammed his fist into his chest and from it, spread red and gold armor, connecting to his gauntlets and boots while a helmet snapped into place. Gaara also started donning armor, thought it was more demonic looking and had a red and silver color scheme. Up in the stands, Hinata threw off her jacket, Lee slammed his gauntlets together, and Tenten opened her briefcase. Hinata was donned in armor similar to Naruto's but was silver instead of gold. Lee was wearing a set of silver armor that glowed red, blue, and purple in some places. Tenten meanwhile was wearing a suit of demonic gray armor that fit her perfectly like Hinata's. In the cage booth, Orochimaru had reviled himself and was holding Saritobi at Kuni point. "Your village is doomed, Saritobi-sensei." The snake Sannin hissed. "You want to bet my former student?" Saritobi said as his robes were torn apart to reveal a set of red, white, blue, and yellow armor. "Think Burning God Gundam from G Gundam. And I'm not alone. Won't you agree, Swordmaster, Gunslinger?" Kamachi and Tawa appeared by the Hokage's side, activating their own armors. Kamachi was a dark blue color with gold around her joints while Tawa's was all red with several weapons protruding from his back. Outside the stadium standing on top of the Hokage's tower, Dosu was already decked out in bulky gray armor that was armed to the teeth. "Showtime," he said putting his helmet on. Deep in a cave, Kin sat in front of a series of monitors as images of the Iron Men appeared. Rock Lee, Gilgamesh armor, online. Tenten, Pandora armor, online. Gaara of the Desert, Lucifer armor, online. Kin said, reading off each of their information. Kamachi Nakamazi, Swordmaster armor, online. Tawa Uzumaki, Gunslinger armor, online. Hizen Saritobi, Burning God armor, online. Dosu, War Machine armor, online. Hinata Hyuga, Rescue armor, online. Naruto Uzumaki Nakamazi, Iron Man armor, online. Kin smiled as she saw all of them in the green. Iron Men Brigade, online. The end. Now we will see you in the next video.